It's really nice when people don't take advantage of that. And that was something that I didn't even think of until like months later after we filmed. I was like, oh, like no one made even like silly jokes, even if they were okay to make. Like, even if I maybe like opened up the space for a little bit more like energy, not like anyone's making dumb comments, but everyone still was like having fun, but didn't like didn't take advantage of my openness in a way.
And they didn't see how far they could push it or anything like that.
Push it, and that's something that I often deal with.
All right, everybody. We have an awesome guest today. We have Jenn Harris. Jenn Harris is an award-winning director, writer, actor, producer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Her latest short film is called She's Clean, and it explores the nuances of intimacy and sexual autonomy in middle age. It's a really, really good film. Funny at times, very awesome. You might also recognize her from the Oscar-winning film American Fiction. Jenn has a very wide-ranging career in film, stage, I think even The Classroom, if I'm not mistaken. So, Jenn, super happy to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Robert. I really appreciate it.
How are you feeling today, just generally?
I feel good. I feel really good. Yeah. I was just telling a friend of mine that asked me how I was feeling with everything coming out now, because the film's now out. And I was like, well, people have had lovely things to say, and very interesting, smart things, and sort of smarter than what I thought I made, where I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. I didn't think about that, but that's great.
Yeah, that was totally intentional. Yes, you picked up on the subtext.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Awesome. Well, before diving in kind of to the short film, stuff like that, I would love to get to know, Jenn a little bit more as a person. Can you tell me like how you wound up in the entertainment industry? I know you've done a lot in the industry, and also how that fits with you as a person, if it does.
Oh, yeah. I grew up in Illinois, and I was a sporty girl, and I wanted to be a doctor. I was like, oh, I want to be a doctor. So I sort of was on that path, went to an all-girls Catholic school, studied Latin, had to work hard for my grades, but whatnot. And then I did a play for the first time my junior year in high school. So it was late, and something just clicked. And I was like, oh, that's something, like, that's my thing. Like, that feels very comfortable inside of me. And I don't know why, but I don't care. It feels very comfortable. And as a kid, I always was the one designing how we were going to play. Like, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to play. This is where we're going to go. So I'd always kind of been a director and a performer. But I was encouraged by my family, because my parents are either really smart or really dumb, to go to theater school instead of med school.
Wow. That's kind of rare.
I think I might have the only ones. I think they just knew me well enough to know, and they knew me way better than I knew myself. They probably still do. And I went to Boston University. I studied theater, got a degree in acting, fell in love the first week. I was like, oh, this is it. Met my people in college, and then moved to New York. And I was in New York for 20 some years, and did time in LA, and traveled and did work all over theater, all over the world, and made my own work, started making my own work, always had like my own theater company doing a bunch of downtown performance art parody stuff. I did a musical called Silence the Musical, which is a musical parody of the film Silence of the Lambs.
You were Clarice, yes, I think, in that, right?
I was Clarice. That was a big move for me. I did a movie, Gaby, with my friend Matt, that our friend Johnny Lasecki wrote for us, and that went all over South by Southwest, and that sort of started my like film festival land. My best friend Matt and I made New York is Dead, which is a web series that premiered at Tribeca. Then I made a short film called Island Queen, which was the first thing I directed. I co-directed with the writer Zachary Grady, and that was starring Jesse Tyler Ferguson and Rachel Dratch. And then I found myself in San Diego when the pandemic hit, and essentially stayed because I was in between apartments in New York. And and I've been here. I travel a lot to LA, so I would say I'm like LA, New York, San Diego is my little, and wherever the job takes me. But, it's a little different now how we are able to do things. There's more autonomy with location. So I took advantage of that. And during the pandemic, I was alone in San Diego here. I was away from home, which is New York to me and my friends. And I decided to delve into this thing that I had started writing, kind of. And I was like, I'm ready to make my next thing. What is it? And I couldn't get this idea out of my head. And when I say idea, I think I was, for the first time, really thinking visually as a filmmaker. I really like the idea of snippets. My film is like 15 short scenes. I liked the idea of like clips, like a montage of some sort. I liked the idea of that. And I wanted the visual challenge as a filmmaker to keep all the action in one space. So I think that sort of was the first thought. And I was like, this is a good idea if I want to tackle something that I think that I have the information on or around that could be interesting. This is the idea that I have. Like, I didn't want to do walk and talks, and I didn't want to do 17 locations, and I wanted to challenge myself as a filmmaker, because I was like, well, let's put the pedal to the metal. Can you really actually make something that isn't just two people in a room saying funny dialogue, which is great. And I'll do that forever. And I probably will do that forever. And that's the majority of the stuff that I do. I just wanted to try something visually more challenging.
Absolutely. Do you mind if I share a little personal anecdote?
Yes.
So you said, you're down in San Diego.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, my parents were never together. They were never married or anything like that. So I was going between Orange County, California, down to San Diego, California.
All right.
And so I would be shipped back and forth a lot, on the freeway. And on the freeway, back then we didn't have, smartphones and things to distract us. So I'd be looking out the window a lot. And I have this vivid experience I remember of always looking at, going through LA and stuff, the office buildings. And they'd have their lights on when it's dark, and you could see people in there.
Yeah.
And each little portal almost of like a vignette. And I would think as a kid about like each one of those things is like an intimate little view into that person's life and that person's life and stuff. And I got that same feeling from watching She's Clean.
I love that. That's fantastic. I love that. Thanks.
Yeah. Maybe I want to talk more about the film, but people probably haven't seen it quite yet when this comes out. Maybe some have, but can you give like a quick rundown about what it is, so that people know what we're talking about?
It's a short film all set in a bathroom, and it's about a woman who's looking to marry her desires for sexual freedom with emotional intimacy. So she showers with all her dates. So it's all set in a bathroom, one bathroom, her bathroom. And there are a bunch of different men. It's non-sequential. We go back. We reintroduce a date. We've cut dates up, and so I've edited. Me and Janet Emeg, my editor, cut it all up. So it's a bit of a meditation on intimacy. It's funny. It's grounded, I hope, in something a little bit more nuanced and realistic than what I normally see intimacy captured on film. And I was really looking to, again, make a space visually interesting for 15 minutes and play with camera angles and shots and lenses to capture something more emotional, but also comedic. And I think those two have to go hand in hand, whether we see it or not. And I also was very, and still am very interested in intimacy on film, where we're not sort of stuck in these two polar realms of either two people falling in love, or three maybe, people falling in love, or sex being exploitative. Both of those things happen. Both of those things make for great filmmaking and I enjoy consuming those things. And I also just feel it's not very representative, at least in my experience, of what intimacy can be and has been with another person. I think it's that realm of all that stuff in between is just very interesting to me too. Like intimacy, be it with a man, be it with a friend, be it with a coworker, a student, my neighbor, my yoga teacher, someone I play volleyball with, it's just very interesting to me.
Yeah. And in, America as well, we have a tendency to want to sort of like put these things in the specific silos, right? Yeah. This kind of intimacy, that kind of intimacy and stuff like that. And I would argue one of the most intimate moments, I've seen the film once, so I'm sure I'd pick up more on more views, but one of the most intimate moments is a non-sexual moment, with a friend, toward the end. And yeah, I think that's super interesting. The bathroom setting. Yeah. Is there a personal pull to that? Like, was that something that came from your life as a certain special space, or where did that come from as the location? Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. So the year, it's halfway over. Can you believe that? Time is absolutely flying. I hope that there are some things that you're proud of yourself for in 2024 so far. It's also a good time to reflect on what you still want to accomplish. When life moves fast, it's so important to take the time to celebrate your wins and, of course, make whatever adjustments are needed as you move forward into the rest of the year. There are many ways to do this. Journaling, talking about it with loved ones, talking to yourself out loud in the shower like I do. And therapy is also an amazing tool to take stock of your progress and set achievable goals for the rest of the year. If you're thinking about giving therapy a try, check out BetterHelp. It's entirely online and designed to be suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire, and that will get you matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So take a moment to reflect with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/duff today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/duff.
I think my first initial thought is that's the funniest room in the house. I'm about to delve into something hopefully more nuanced, and I really still want it to be funny. Not har. Well, whatever, however one finds it, great. But I wanted it to be humorous, and I'm like, that's the funniest room in the house. Like, there's nothing funnier. Like, what's more? And also sort of horrific. There's like sort of a tinge of horror to it too. You shit, you bleed, you bleed, you shave, you do things while you're taking a shit on the phone. You're like having conversation. There's just so much prepostery and also transformation. I know I'm like rolling my own eyes right now at that, but for a woman, there's so much transformation and man that can happen in a bathroom. It's like you can look at yourself in the mirror and be like feeling yourself. And I find that so sweet and touching when like a human like looks at themselves and they're like, there I am, or I look pretty, or whatever. And you're looking at yourself also like, oh, this is rough. I find it all very interesting and funny. And I was like, ugh, I don't want to intimacy in a bedroom's boring. Who cares? And also it's not as dangerous. It's not as, and also it's like the moment after intimacy, specifically with dating, I find is the most information. The most information comes after, like after you've had sex. Yeah. Or some type of whatever postcoital. Sure. I get most tuned in and excited and locked in and attentive. I'm very attentive to what happens after. And right. For me, and I know we can talk about dynamics between, men and heterosexual men and women and all of that, which I totally like. I'm like, yeah, those things are true. And sometimes they're not, and blah, blah, blah. But there is, for me, I find intimacy so comfortable and like safe. Have you always? That's a good question. No. I'm thinking sexually. You asked about what I did, a little bit about myself as a person and how that informed me as an actor. Now I'm going to answer that question for real. Cool. I think intimacy, in the broader term, in human behavior, which is acting, like hopefully I teach my students, hopefully we are observing humans and human behavior. That's all the research you really need to do. learn your instrument. Let's learn to vessel it through. And here we go. Say the lines that the writer wrote. I've always been interested in human behavior, and I've always wanted to interact with humans. And even as a little kid, like, God, where are the people? What are we doing? Where are the things? I mean, my mom said, you would never have made it in the pandemic as a kid. I'm like, I know. I wouldn't have made it. No, I would not have made it. I would have jumped off the roof and probably just broken my leg. But it's intimacy in a broader sense of the word has always been comfortable for me. I seek it out. I don't trust people who can't get it, not right away. We're not like trauma bonding. We're not like spilling boundaries and being awkward.
I mean, we are,
you and I, for sure. But like, yeah, good. But I also think too that, I'm not interested in putting upon, in my film, I don't need to teach a lesson. I'm not out here to implicate anyone. Like, not interested. I don't care. Everybody have a good time, enjoy it, get something or don't. I have no lessons to teach. I have none. But reflection is more interesting to me, and just like enjoyment. But I think that once I get to know like a new person, there does come a point where I'm like, okay, it's fine, but like, this is as far as you can go. So now either I'm done with it, or I'm just sort of, I'll stay with you, maybe because I have to, because it's a different category. It's a different category, or I'm a teacher, or I'm just a colleague, or I'm working with, or we're neighbors or something. I don't want to be fully intimate with every person that's in my life, but I do in dating space. I do get to some certain point where I see, okay, this isn't gonna work for me. And either then it's like, okay, we're done, I move along, or I'll stay acquaintances with the person, but I stay right about here. My interest and my, we stay right about there, because I'm not gonna force someone into something, and I'm not gonna open up to someone who, can't receive in that way. So, and that's great. And that's fine.
That's interesting. So personally, I'm non-monogamous. So I'm married. I also have a girlfriend. My wife's also dates and stuff like that. And there's this idea called the relationship escalator, which is basically there's this expectation that a lot of us have. You start here, you do this, then you do this, then you do this, and you ask these questions, you move on, etc. And it seems to me like you are very comfortable not having to pursue that relationship escalator in every situation, and it's okay to see where you are with the person and let that be okay, rather than forcing something.
Yes, I have tried to force things. I think I've learned from that. I think younger me, and maybe even older me, I think, some comes with some disappointment. A lot comes with it's something that maybe I can't siphon out, but thank God it's done for me. I'm very comfortable and open, and that leads to a lot of like mismanaged self-care. And I've kind of stopped. I used to think there was something immature about that in myself, or I used to think that there was something embarrassing, and I see it very different now. I just see it as like, I'd much rather be an open person who starts from that place, and then just have to like maybe rewind a little bit. But that comes with like age and experience, I think. It's interesting. The non-monogamy space is very interesting to me, because I'm not, or maybe because I don't see myself as that person, but I just think it's really great that we are now, hopefully, I'm sure that space would love way more openness and inclusion and acceptance into the zeitgeist. But it makes me so happy, especially in, this country, that we're talking about all these different ways to relate to people, and where intimacy sits in a relationship for different people, and it can be different for different people. It doesn't have to be the same thing. I was just, children are intimate. They come out of your body if you're a woman. But that I chose not to have kids, and I always kind of wondered, like, what did I miss out on? What? Oh no, am I da 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 da? And it's only been the last couple of years where I'm like, oh my God, thank God I didn't. And
yeah, I have two, and I agree.
Well, I think sometimes I don't know how I'm taking care of myself. I'm just following my life path, and I can't believe, but I am doing what it is that I'm supposed to do. And I teach, I have nieces, I have exes, kids that are in my life, but there's stuff that, as much as there's a lot that comes with parenting that is incredible, I do feel, here's a story. So I'm about to get a new car. I drive a 2008 Honda Fit, and it's not dying. It'll never die. It's got almost 200,000 miles. It could do 200,000 more. It's not dying. When I go to look at cars, it laughs in my face. Like that is my Honda Fit. I love it. And like, I want a new car. I have money now. I want to get a new car, and I love cars. I grew up around, I love cars, and my dream is a BMW. Like, I'm looking at some nice cars. I was at Mercedes yesterday. Now, no one's pulling a new car off the lot. No one's doing that. But, I'm looking at some 2001s and some 2000, right? And it's like, oh, this might be doable. Anyway, I don't need to go into that. Point is, it's interesting to see. I've had 2 encounters with friends who have found it like, oh, you're going to get a what? Like, why would you spend your money? Like, that's not responsible. That is what, and one person was like, I don't think that's very responsible. You should put that money away. Not knowing that maybe I do have money put away. But I think,
why is that their fucking business?
And why is it their business? But what's interesting is I'm like, and this is of course me going off into fantasy head, but I'm connecting probably 2 different things that I don't think are unconnectable. But that I wonder if I'd be like, I'm pregnant, I'm having a baby. People get around that. People circle up and are ready to go. Honestly, like, I would love to put a post up. I'm about to have a baby, and it's a BMW. It's a 2023 330i, like a sedan.
A baby beamer.
A baby beamer, and I want everyone to circle around. But I think that there's something, it's a silly story to say, that there's something that I sometimes get about choices that feels like it's irresponsible because it's not what maybe the majority of people are doing. And it's too bad. And I say that too with intimacy and non-monogamy and monogamy. People choose monogamy. I live in liberal land, big liberal land. I'm a New Yorker performance artist. Like, it doesn't get more liberal. Although with some things these days, my God, I'm like, am I a moderate? Anyway. We won't get, and I'm like knocking my head. We won't get political, but I think
we'll save you from that.
Save me from myself, right? Save me from moderacy. But oh God, I hope I'm not getting off track. But I just think that oh shoot, I did get off track when I said politics, didn't I?
You forget yourself. You're talking about intimacy.
Intimacy. I think that I'm a monogamous person. I lean towards a lot of, and it's a shocker to me to discover that I actually am heterosexual. It's a shocker to me to discover, like, oh, I love a traditional relationship. I love, I'll always work, and I'm not going to be a mom, and I'm a terrible cook, except like 2 things, but whatever. That's not what we're talking about. There's something so broader than that. And that's where I feel comfortable in a space. And sometimes I'm like, please accept my, like, my normalcy.
You're like, I'm so square. Am I okay?
I've asked myself, like, are you sure? And I'm like, I really don't. And I'm like, okay, that's okay. It's all okay. Whatever space we're in terms of intimacy is safe and okay. And I feel that way too with guys that I date who aren't where I'm at. I mean, I try to suss that out before we meet, but sometimes men don't tend to listen, and that's okay too. You know, there's just some things that, like, I'm not interested in, like, there's no whip to dating, unless there should be. But sorry, there's just how can you go in with complete strangers and have expectations that are just, this is a stranger that's on your phone. I mean, it's preposterous. Or that you've met for 5 seconds. And it's just getting to know people. And for me, I prefer slowly. And what sort of unravels with that? Wow, I don't even know what your question was. There wasn't.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Good.
Trust me, I have plenty of questions that I could pull from, but I don't think I really need to.
I'm just babbling.
Well, I mean, one thing that I noticed in the film, that the way it came off to me was unapologetic, right? Like unapologetic, and there was a certain, I guess, confidence to it, the way you present things. Like, you don't have to set the frame for, like, oh, okay, you're going to witness a naked body now. You're going to witness a sex scene or whatever, and setting that frame. It's just like, here, vignette, life. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, there's a certain confidence to that, I think. Was that a thought in your mind? Was that intentional?
That's a good question. Thank you for saying that. I like those things about my film. I'm glad that you saw them. I think there was something a little nerve-wracking about choosing, because all of these scenarios and dates, they're all fully written out. Like, the date begin, and I just chose these little bits that I thought were the most interesting. So I think I was a little nervous, like, is that the right bit? Is that the right moment that I want to hone in on? So in terms of confidence, I wasn't confident if that was the best, but here we go, making a choice. It was to me, I guess. And in terms of, do you mean confidence with, well, maybe you mean overall?
I mean, I guess in the filmmaking, like, you just threw it out there in the way that you did, without holding people's hands too much, right? I guess that's what I mean.
I do not like to hold hand. Like, I hate when I watch something. I'm like, no, we don't need all that dialogue. Shut up, show it. It's not a play. No, I do not like to underestimate my audience. Catch up. You should be It's like comedy. Like, I should be ahead of the audience. You should catch up to me. Don't pander to them. Don't mug to the audience. I hate a lot of the practice that I've had doing comedy on stage is absolutely what I want to infuse to a film. If the audience finds something funny, great. Do not wait for them. Do not hand something to them. If anything, I hand you shots of, right off the bat, I hand you shots of my butt and a shot of a man's front. And I'm like, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do this and here we go. Like, just quick, fun, beautiful shots, I think, by Charlie. Also funny and, and sort of ridiculous. I think I developed it with the Sundance Collab program. So it was me and 30 other writers from all over the world. And I did kind of want that confidence of, like, people being able to, who weren't my friends, being able to understand what I wrote and find it funny and touching and make it work. So that I needed to do. And then, honestly, when people started saying yes to doing the project with me, that built my confidence up. Because in my experience, I don't know what other filmmakers think or artists think or people think, but I can get something going and started. If I have an idea, like, I got the hustle to do it. But at some point, it's so helpful when other people go, that is a great idea, like encouragement. And when really smart, smarter, more artistic, funnier than you people go, yeah, let's do it. How exciting. And then there isn't room for doubt. There just isn't. It will not serve the day. It will not serve the script. It will not serve the scene. You have to get out of your way as an actor, as a filmmaker, especially as a director and a producer. and do the job that everyone is there to do. It's not yours anymore. It's not yours. We'll come back and we'll relook at everything and when we're editing. And even then, Jana took the wheel a lot of the time, but you have to be. And I think too, with the specific nudity, I'm very comfortable in my body. Those actors, God bless them, are comfortable in their bodies, which was so useful and generous of them. I mean, at the end of the day, like, people said, oh, it's so brave that you did that. I'm like, well, I'm choosing the shots.
Sure.
I'm choosing it. Like, I get to choose, and I don't like that. Nah, I don't look good there. No, I don't. I mean, I didn't really have options, but I was like, it's that. Those actors they did not get to choose how I captured their body. I mean, they knew if they were being captured. They all knew specifically what shot I was going for, but they didn't get to choose that. So to me, all of those men who showed up for me, you know, men who have one line, maybe no lines in a film, it does say a lot about them. So I think the nudity with me, I'm just comfortable in my body, and that's just been years of just growing up and just growing up. I think there's just something to growing up. Also, you know, I don't hate my body, so all right, let's go. And I just don't think it would serve anything to do that. And I think I knew my body specifically, like, it just would have gotten the film done. It was kind of a means to an end. I was like, I don't know, if I cast someone else, how are we going to do, like, I would feel like I'd be taking care of her. I would want to take care of her the whole time. I'd love to direct some intimacy scenes where it's not me. I look forward to that.
Let me ask a question about that. Yeah, when you do that eventually, how will you approach that differently from, you know, what you typically see?
Well, I can definitely draw on this last experience because I used Brooke M. Haney, who's an intimacy coordinator, and I worked very closely with her. She actually just wrote the book, literally, on intimacy coordination that just came out last month. So she wrote the book on it, and it's out now. And so I definitely had, like, the top woman, the top person doing this.
What's that like? How does that work out? I've heard of intimacy coordinators, especially in the news recently with some other big projects and stuff. But, like, what is it actually like?
It's incredible. It's just like a choreographer, or if you have a stunt director. I would say it's close to a stunt director, to where, you know, this is because they are intimate stunts in a way. And I say that, I don't say that, you know, pejorative. It's a great word. I also learned about stunts recently, and I love it. But they have the script. You talk about, you know, you deal with the other actors, and they deal with them. Like, what could we? Everybody has their own nudity writer. You know, there's either frontal, rear, whatever could be shown. It's all decided beforehand. Where can we touch or kiss? All that stuff is specific. So everything is specific and talked about and put legally in a little document in a writer. She speaks with them separate of me. I speak with the guy. I speak with her. And then her and I talked about each scene, what the feel was, what I wanted to accomplish. Then when we got to the location, we blocked it out. She was there when we blocked it. Your intimacy coordinator can do whatever for you. They can be like, I'll direct all. If a director's like, I want a makeout scene, but I don't know how to do it, they can take over full tilt. I knew exactly what I wanted for everything. So she's like, great, I'm going to be there, facilitate, observe. Can I give suggestions? Yes. She gave awesome suggestions. I'm like, oh yeah, let's flip this here and put a leg up here. So she's there during blocking. And then she's also, it's incredible because they're also taking care of the performer pre and post emotionally as well. I'm not saying they're therapists, but like an aftercare, which is like, how was that? Are you okay? Right? Because a lot of stuff we don't know in the moment we're okay with or we're not okay with. Or like, what just happened? You know, I need to sort of process a bit and deal with it. And they do that, you know, most of them, I guess, do that as well. But it's just such a freeing thing as an actor, as a director, as a writer. Like, it's just like if I prepped, a stunt, I'd do the same thing. I'd take care for all the same things. And so And then the actor, everybody's free to do whatever it is they want and are free to do. And in this specific case, I think it was really important for the men because I'm the director and the writer and the producer. Like, there's a kind of power dynamic there. And they, I don't know. I don't like the stereotype. Well, it just doesn't make sense. There's no stereotype. It's ridiculous to say, thank God we have intimacy coordinators for women on set. The fuck? Like, men need it just as much. You know, there's lots of technical elements that they have to deal with that we don't. And men need to be just as comfortable as women. And the other sex scenes I did were in Gaby, and then High Maintenance I was in one. And, you know, both times, not Gaby, but in High Maintenance, it was really like, oh God, are you okay? Like, I don't want to do anything wrong. And that's the one thing I didn't want any of my actors to feel. I don't want you to feel like you're going to do anything wrong or scary, or is that not okay? Like, so I feel I had, especially as a director, a responsibility to be confident. Does that make sense? This is a real long answer to confidence. But if I wasn't confident in my body, what I wanted, what we were doing, how are they supposed to be able to do what they want to do in the role?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you were modeling, you know, the behavior and stuff like that. And then this is sort of like boundaries, right?
Yeah.
You use the term like freeing or, you know, freedom a lot. And it's interesting because you're closing things in, but within that box, then you have the freedom to not worry about those things.
Yeah.
Like you can be authentic and natural, knowing that you're going to be taken care of in XYZ sort of ways.
Yeah. And you know, I don't know why what you just said made me think of this, but also, I mean, because it was COVID and super low budget, obviously our crew was very, very small. I always hire a crew that I feel very comfortable with, and everyone's going to have a good time and have fun because we're not doing this for the money. So everybody has to have fun and know that we're going to have a good time. And something that I appreciated about my crew is another thing, I guess, about me that I feel personally. I tend to get that, like, she can handle it. She's one of the guys. I know, I get it. I get how I love who I am. It's fine. But there is something, and I said this with other girlfriends of mine who are sort of more forward-facing and vocal and verbal and confident, whatever, in the moment, or seemingly confident, that it's sort of like they can take it. They don't need to be taken. Like, they've got their own back. Great. I do. And it's really nice when I don't have to. It's really nice when people don't take advantage of that. And that was something that I didn't even think of until like months later after we filmed. I was like, oh, like no one made even like silly jokes, even if they were okay to make. Like, even if I maybe like opened up the space for a little bit more like energy, not like anyone's making dumb comments, but everyone still was like having fun, but didn't take advantage of my openness in a way.
And they didn't see how far they could push it or anything like that.
Push it, and that's something that I often deal with.
I bet. But yeah, it's I'm glad we're able to talk about this. It's such a great, probably counter example to the way a lot of sets are run and stuff like that. And I imagine for you, even if you only recognize it after the fact, that's a part of your brain that doesn't have to be running on autopilot while you're doing all this other stuff.
It's very, very true. I tell my students, my students at USD, at the start of every class, and it never ends up working by the end, at least for the undergrads. The grads are great. The undergrads are great too, but they're just older. The undergrads, I say, all right, this is going to be fun. It's art, first of all. It's like, this is going to be a fun class. I have a great time. I love teaching this. I'm not going to change the way that I teach and enjoy teaching So you feel parented. Like, you're not in high school anymore, so don't take advantage of the fun. Let's take fun seriously. Like, let's take it seriously. Like, let's enjoy it. And, and they're always trying to get away with stuff. Or they're surprised. They're like, why didn't I get an A? You were having so much fun. And I'm like, me having a great time doesn't mean you get an A. Like, do you know what I'm saying? And I think, too, there's something to the way that I work, where I'm like, oh, I'm going to have a good time. And it's really great. This isn't all my life when I'm like, oh, special people. We were talking about people that we keep in our life or we sort of move on from. It's the people that don't take advantage of that fun, or, sarcasm starts creeping in and you're like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Not quite it, but I mean, good try.
Yeah. You mentioned your previous, other experiences you've had and stuff like that. And, obviously just like as a woman, in this world, you do need to be on guard, in a number of ways. If not, you roll the dice on certain things, and that's unfortunate. But creating spaces where you can lessen that, where you don't have to, it just seems like it opens up authenticity. And authenticity is one of the things I think that kind of drips from your work.
Thanks. I mean, I'm always careful to pick those people, and sometimes you can't quite do it or whatnot, whatever. But I think of that crew, every single one of those people, and I'm like, wow, that's showing up. That's just, and it taught me. They taught me a lot. I'm like, this is how you show up in a space like this. This is how you do it. And I'm like, that's great. Like, that's really great. And I think too, being a woman on guard. Yes. And like I said, there is a responsibility that I'm trying to choose my words, but I don't mind backtracking. If you're going to take a position of authority, a position of a director, and you're dealing with other people's bodies and their art, and that's going to be living on the internet for all of eternity, you have to go in with some confidence. You have to go in with some authority and some confidence. And if it's something that like you're not used to because you're a woman, honey, I don't know what to tell you. You got to figure it out. You got to step into those spaces, get the help, ask questions, show up. And this doesn't mean you can't, be in your feminine space. And I say the same thing for men. I'd say the same thing. This isn't, we're making it binary right now, but they're, just to know where your strengths and weaknesses are and see where they're useful and where they're not, especially on a set where there's intimacy involved, is you gotta check that out. You gotta make sure. And it'd be interesting to I haven't shot a feature yet, directed a feature yet. Be interesting to see how I do after week 3, how I'm holding space. And you know what? And then some days you're not on it, and that's fine too.
Sure. I wanted to ask about sort of a theme. You in a lot of the literature for the film and stuff like that, there's this idea of, I think the terminology was like aging into confidence. Why was that an important aspect of it for you?
I think I needed that for myself a little bit. I couldn't sort of get it out myself. Even though we're using bodies and sex in this short, there's something about my personally, and listening to other women my age in their 40s, how we talk about, it's so wonderful to start hearing us talk about our I'm going to sound so stupid, our minds. It's just a weird sentence, but it's so fun to listen to my friends talk about, oh, it's important how we think, and do we need to take an omega-3? I got to keep my mind moving rather than like what, diet, or I need to lose a couple pounds, or I'm now biking to work every day, which is all great. Like, great. Love it all. Everybody do what you want with your bodies. Go off. I'm into it. But it's just, and I will sit and listen to anyone talk about wanting to lose weight or diet. Great. Love it. It's just, it's really fun aging when you start opening up your brain a little bit and collecting wisdom and start like I watch movies better, bro. I watch movies better. I watch television more smart. I look at my work and I'm like, could have been better. We'll still pull it out. We'll still put it out. Could have been better. There isn't this like hammer. I'm not like mad at people when I go out into the world. Not that I ever really was, but drivers don't upset me as much. And, because it's like, what is in my brain, like what I'm holding in my head is so important to me. Like what is keeping my brain space? When I wake up in the morning, normally I'm a person who has a hard time falling asleep. I don't sleep. My brain is doing 50,000 things. So I got to do all the things you do when you go to sleep. And normally I'm like when I wake up, the first thing that's on my mind normally tells me if I'm in a good headspace or not. Sometimes it's just hormonal and it's not my fault because like my period's coming or something. But the first thing that's on my brain when I wake up is a good gauge of where I'm at. And I never thought about these things. Like I never thought about these things.
Yeah. I like that.
So I think, I don't even remember what the theme was that we were talking on.
Aging into confidence. Yeah. And it sounds like as you become more sort of self-reflective and you tune into what other people, around your age are experiencing, helps to clarify more what really like what does and doesn't matter to you, shaving away a lot of the stuff that probably doesn't really make that big of a difference to you.
Right. And I don't know, when you just said that, I just thought of specifically a dating experience where someone will be, down with, you see the moment where you're like, oh yeah, they don't want to go. They're just not where you're at. They're not thinking things, or they're like, then they disappear, or then like they don't come back or whatnot. And it's like, oh yeah, right. They're not there, or the way they spend their time is just very different. And there's, I don't know. I'm not being clear because I'm trying to.
Well, when you're younger, I think you have a desperation to make it. It's supposed to work. That's the idea. Is it's supposed to work. You do whatever it takes to make it work. Versus like this is maybe a correct rejection. Like they're not there. We don't fit, right. And that's good. That's okay. You're not sort of trying to force that.
Right. And I think when I was younger, the people that came into my life that I was not ready for, and I was like, I stepped away from it. I'm like, oh, they were just way too mature than where I was at. Like I wanted to go, I've been sober for over 20 years, but I wanted to go like check out and go get like wasted, or I wanted to go, party it up. I didn't think you could party it up sober, I thought that like, you can't do that, or the people wouldn't be as fun. Little did I know. Desperately more interesting and can party harder sober.
I'm sure you can. You can party harder, I have no doubt, Jen.
Sober partying, right? It's great.
Yeah. I want to start moving toward wrapping things up. I've taken up a good amount of your time, and I'm curious. You've obviously learned a lot from this project. I imagine you learned a lot from all the other projects you've done too. As you're continuing to develop your identity within this sphere, how do you want people to remember you in the industry?
Ooh. Oh, that's such a sweet question. It's so sweet.
I try.
I hope that when people think of me in the industry, they giggle to themselves and they laugh a little bit. This is probably my least funny piece of work that I've done. I hope that they laugh. It's my favorite thing to evoke from people. And I hope that they think of me as also a fun person that helped them have a good time. I really love having just fun with people. And I can't think of anything better than making someone just be fully entertained by whatever it is that I've done, or laugh, or just think, oh, that silly, stupid girl, whatever. It's just something fun, that they got to have some fun. It's so underrated to me. Like, I don't need to change anyone's life. I don't need, even though I think fun can change lives, comedy has kept me alive on a daily basis. Truly. And I just think that, like, joy and fun is so, people, it's not taken very seriously. And my friend Cole Escola has a play that's moving to Broadway called Oh Mary, and it's a very campy, silly, ridiculous idea. And Cole just won an award last night, or accepted an award for it, and said, I'm the stupidest person I know. Thank you so much for taking a stupid idea seriously. And beautiful. I was sitting on my couch over here clapping, looking at my television, watching it from my phone to my television. And and my lips in the back, my friend Amanda gave me those. Anyway, and I thought to myself, all the people who have taken, if I've helped you take comedy a little seriously, and it's been an inclusive kind of comedy, right? It's not a bullying, but a fun, then I would die happy.
Yeah. Well, let's give some gratitude to your parents for letting you pivot and go this direction, because obviously you were meant for this.
They definitely let me pivot at 16? How old were we? 18 when we graduate high school? 17? They let me pivot.
It's a near miss, though, right? You could be a doctor right now, just trying to make jokes with your patients.
Oh God, I would be an insufferable doctor. Insufferable.
I worry about that for myself
right?
sometimes.
Oh my God.
You'd
be an insufferable doctor.
Well, I am a doctor. Well, just a psychologist, not a real doctor.
You are a real doctor.
But
I don't think you're insufferable. Definitely not.
Thank
A
you.
real doctor.
Thank you.
That's crazy. I've spent way more time with my real doctor, psychiatrist, psychologist than I have with regular doctors. So you spend way more time in people's lives.
Where can people find the film right now if they want to see it?
They can see it. It's on Vimeo, streaming free on Vimeo. The link is, you can look up She's Clean on Vimeo.
Yeah, and I'll add it in.
And it's also, you can follow me on Instagram, Real Jenn Harris, or She's Clean the Film on Instagram, and I post everything up there. It's in the bio.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to shout out for yourself or anybody else? Anything you want to direct people toward?
That's what we're at right now. No, just sort of finishing that up and looking for the next project. I'll be doing a couple plays this summer. It'll be fun. If you're in Houston, I'm doing a premiere of a new Anna Ziegler play called The Jania. That's a really good play. And I would not steer you towards a bad play. So if you're in the Houston area, that's going to be there in the end of summer, beginning of fall, and that's going to be a great play. That's it.
Awesome. Well, it's been a super huge pleasure talking to you. Thank you for coming on.
Such thoughtful questions. Thanks for letting me ramble.